Bet on Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat, the designer, Jason McKie down there on that. We're getting some good Kansas City hotel internet this year. Shout out to Kansas City upgrading the internet package down there. We got a lot to get into on today's episode as J-Mac, we got some smack talk. Feels like we live in rent-free in some people's heads out here. 2 weeks after, 2 weeks later. It's crazy. How do you got people just losing their minds over certain things? I mean, physical football, my God, we got to talk about that. We also got to sit here and preview this Kansas City Chiefs game that is going to be happening tonight and talk about cut down day, which is very different from when you played, J-Mac, going from 90 to 53. I believe this Tuesday at 3 p.m. is cut down day. We'll talk about all that and more on today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave the 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. As always, man, today's episode brought to you by the Advantage Dealer Group. Get your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes or they'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana, Las Vegas style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field, exit 6 right off I-80 94. All right, J-Mac, how you feeling, my guy? How's KC? I mean, a little amped, a little ready for this game tonight?
Yeah, I'm excited. Anytime we get another opportunity to watch some Bears football, especially against a great opponent. You know, I think last week we saw, a Bears team that did what they were supposed to do, especially the starters on both sides of the ball. They went out there against Buffalo, played well, dominated. Even though the Bills didn't play their starters, we understand that. But at the same time, the goals were, right? And the coaches laid it out. Coach Johnson had been laying that out, all week in terms of what he wanted to see from that preseason game last week. He wanted to see, offensively, he wanted to see clean football. He wanted to see the operation, ran smoothly by the quarterback. He wanted to see Caleb Williams be efficient. You wanted to see the fundamentals of football come to light in terms of running and not running, but blocking and catching on the offensive side and on the defensive side. Good tackling, making sure that their guys are in their right gap, the right positions, the right coverage, things of that nature. So just overall, just clean fundamental football, and I think that's what we saw. We saw a good performance by the starters when they had the opportunity, and we also saw a good performance by a lot of the backups who got a lot of playing time, played really well. So those guys, like we talked about with this cut down day coming up, they're vying for a roster spot as well. So I'm excited to see how all that transpires to tonight. Is there going to be consistency? And we don't know how long the starters are going to play. We do know they're going to play. We do know the Chief starters are going to play as well. So this is a great opportunity to get some good work, ones versus ones, especially we're going to have a long break from, after tonight's game until the season opener against the Vikings.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how the Bears handle tonight. I'm excited to see what this team looks like, but we got to start in the past, J-Mac. 2 weeks ago, we had a little joint practice action versus the Miami Dolphins, and it seems like some of the Dolphins didn't like how the Chicago Bears came out and were the aggressor. And I mean, listen, it's very interesting to hear these comments about football, but what Aaron Brewer had to say about the Bears, he said the first joint practice with Chicago, what he was asked was, do you feel like the physicality has been beneficial to you as the team, which is a question that they're asking because you're probably not physical enough. But the first joint practice with Chicago, Aaron Brewer said, I feel like it was some BS because they were out there tackling and this and that. So it was like fake physicality. If they out there playing tackle football and everybody else was out there playing 7-on-7 or something, like it's fake physicality. You kind of seen that when we went out there and played in a real game. Now, of course, preseason is a real game. Right. It is real action. The Bears tied, but we're not playing the ones in that game either. And I got to ask you this, J-Mac. Is there such thing as fake physicality in a joint practice, and were the Chicago Bears showing that?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't I still don't understand the statement. And as I listen to it more and I'm really trying to process it, right? Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Like I don't understand. And here's the thing, right? Joint practice, first of all, the level of intensity is going to pick up or should pick up naturally. Why? Because you're going up against a different opponent, okay? So we know it's going to be intense. We know it's going to be physical because now I'm going against somebody on an opposite team, opposite color jersey. So I'm going to pick up my level of physicality. Okay. Now, the other part of his statement in terms of we're playing 7-on-7. First of all, here we go. Offensive line and defensive line, they had one-on-ones. They ain't 7-on-7. Mano a mano, you know what I'm saying? Pass pro, you versus us. That's going to be physical anyway. You can't fake physicality there, right? You're trying to set a precedence that our line is going to whoop your D line and vice versa. So I don't understand that. Was there tackling? Yeah, I mean, what they did was I think they were trying to establish thud tempo. Thud tempo was full speed up top, stay off the ground. It was thud tempo, but at the end of the day, when you're in the trenches or you're running an inside run drill or you're running a team period, bodies start colliding. Guys are going to fall on the ground. I saw both sides. There was some tackling to the ground. You know what I mean? But that's just the level of intensity in terms of football. We've seen the Bears practice this camp tackling to the ground because the level of intensity picked up in practice. And that's what the coaches demand, right? There's no, fake physicality. You can fake physicality is you can make statements and say, yes, we're a physical football team. We get off the bus running. When teams play us, they're gonna, when they leave that field, they're gonna be black and blue, or they're gonna be in the ice tubs the next day, and then go out there and not be physical. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and what I saw is a joint practice with the Bears in which they came out and they set a precedent and said, you know what, we are going to set and establish a level of physicality. Now, that's up to Aaron Brewer, and that's up to that Dolphins team to match their level of intensity. So it's no crying about it. It's football. Things are going to happen. Coach says stud guys are going to end up on the ground. It happens all the time. So if their level of physicality is at a higher level than yours, well, guess what? As a team, you got to match that intensity. And, obviously you couldn't match it. And there's no complaining in football. Like, you can't get your lick back. You had an opportunity. You know what I'm saying?
That was my point too. It was like, it's real easy to say all of this stuff when you're not going to play the Bears again this year.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, at the end of the day, man, like, it's a joint practice. And I'm sure that those coaches said, hey guys, like, we're coming, like the Dolphins coaches too, like, hey, like, it's going to be a physical practice. That's why we set it up.
Yes.
That's why we set a joint practice, because we want to increase the intensity, right? It's tough to training camp to go through the monotony of playing, your guys. You're going to be the same people every single day. And at the same time, you may go team periods and stuff like that, but it's still somewhat of a controlled tempo. We've seen that change a little bit with Ben Johnson, with the way he's been running his training camp. But at the same time, you're still trying to protect your own guys because you need those guys during the season. When you go,
I want to say that, like, if the Dolphins coaches had gotten up and said, we got a problem with this, Ben Johnson probably would have adjusted to how they want it. All right, we're not practicing it right. All right, we'll change some things up. Mike McDaniel sat there and watched A-Chain get his block knocked off. He sat there and watched. Now, nobody hit Tua. They got a little close, but they didn't hit him. But he sat there and watched his own players get knocked around, and he blew the whistle and said, next play.
Yeah, both sides were getting knocked around. Like, it's not like, DeAndre Swift's running, you know what I mean, and he wasn't getting hit and thrown to the ground. Kyle Monangai, I seen him getting hit and being tackled to the ground. It went both ways, and you know what that's called, Pat? That's football. Called a joint practice. That's what that's called. So,
football. Like,
I'm like, it makes no sense to me, man. Like, some people, I'm not saying I don't know Aaron Brewer. I don't know. Yeah, that's how he feels. But at the end of the day, man, you got to understand it's a joint practice, and I'll kind of leave it at that. He better, fake physicality. Well, if we're exhibiting fake physicality, it was obviously physical enough to where you felt like you had to make a statement about it. So you might need to pick up your level of intensity and physicality.
And that is my big question on all of this, right? Like, I get you want to say that, but when you fake about something, if you fake the funk and then I turn the music on, it's not that difficult to see you struggle to keep up with the beat. Like, the Bills came in the very next week, and they were like, oh, we know the Bears want to be physical. Let's be physical. My favorite part is, J-Mac, that the only time we saw the Dolphins truly be like match the level of physicality that the Bears were putting out there, because I do think the Bears controlled the practice, was when the two of them were fighting on the sideline versus each other. Like, that was very physical. That was the most physical part of the practice.
Here's the thing, man. Like the Bills, when they came in, you understand what a joint practice entails. Like I said, you know it's going to be a physical, emotional, intense practice. We're going to get some great work, right? That's why. Why do you think that most of the starters are getting most of the work in joint practice? Because in the Dolphins' case, because they weren't playing in that preseason game. So we got to create a game-like, still controlled environment, right? Because they're going to get more work in this joint practice than they are in this preseason game. So I don't know. Maybe he didn't get. Maybe he wasn't in the team meeting that Coach McDaniel had when they talked about the joint practice. I don't know. I think it makes no sense, man.
I think the funniest part about all of it for me is that this wasn't even the most physical we saw the Bears be. And you weren't there at that practice, J-Mac, but I talked about this on the breeze but you've been in these trenches, right? There's an energy. We all give off different vibes and different energy, and you can feel it in the air. We walked out there, and I looked at Sylvie, and Sylvie looked at me, and I was like, there's going to be some fights today. And that Tuesday practice before, you could feel the energy off of the players that, hey, it's about to go to war today. We about to have a real practice. And after that, we talked about how, this is one of the most physical practices we've ever seen since Lovey was here. Teams haven't done this. You haven't seen this in the past. Like, the Dolphins practice, I walked in and I was like, this don't feel the same. This feels very toned down. And it just, to me, to complain about physicality in football, I feel like that says all you need to say about the kind of team that people are saying the Dolphins are, which is why Mike McDaniels scheduled these joint practices, 3 joint practices, J-Mac, with teams that will get after you.
Man, I agree. I mean, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I don't, like I said, Aaron Brewer got enough of my conversation today.
We done with him.
I'm done with him, man. Hey, man, you're a football player. It's going to be physical. You're in the trenches. It's going to be physical. You know what I mean? So either you're going to match that or it's going to be a long season. So
let me ask you
best of luck with that.
If you're on the field, knowing you don't play the Dolphins again, don't play the Dolphins this year in the regular season, is this something that you tuck away and say, oh, we'll see y'all eventually? Is this something you keep in the back of your mind, like, oh, we fake physical? I will see you eventually.
You can keep the receipts. He put it out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I mean, it's just weird to me that football player complaining about physicality, like
alignment at that.
It makes no sense. That's why I said, like, for me, it's I don't even, like, we're talking about somebody, a lineman talking about physicality. Like,
I love that it's not even registering with you. You're like, what are we really talking?
It doesn't. It really, like, I don't even, they were too physical, but you play in the trenches. Like, man, get out of here, man. Like, I don't.
That's why two will be getting sacked so often. You got to keep them upright.
For me,
play
it's
a
like,
little
all
more
right,
physical.
Man, like, and for me, if I'm his position coach, I'm like, dude, what are you talking? Like, dog, you pick up your level of intensity. Their fake tug will expose them. Show them what physicality really is. Then if you're seeing fake physicality, like, man, like.
I love that this is just, he's like, it's a foreign concept. What are you talking about right now?
Yeah,
let's keep it moving. Hit that like button, subscribe.
It's not registering with me, man.
Dog, I had to get that in there. I had to bring that up because I want to see what, like, one, y'all had practices like this. You had joint practices that were extremely physical. So it was like hearing they was being fake physical. They were pushing us around.
You're going to have to tell me, like, football player, like, when you tell us to stud tempo, yeah, we're going full speed, and intense. And if you're getting too physical, the coach can, hey guys, tone it down, stay off the ground. You know what I mean? Like, but other than that, like, we going. It's football. It's the NFL.
And I think my thing is, I think Mike McDaniels knows it, and that's why he didn't say anything. That's why we didn't hear one time Mike is sitting there tone it down.
What's he gonna say? The same thing that we're saying right now.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, it don't make sense. Like, and
I don't know. I
hey,
saw
clip
his
that
statement,
up, Nick. You got to clip that up. That was funny. Seeing J Mac.
did I don't know. Like, I don't know if his teammates came out and backed him on it and said, "Oh, they were being, fake physical or too physical," or whatever he quoted. Was there anybody that actually backed him up?
Only person that I and this happened the day of, and I didn't hear anybody else talking about this, but the Dolphins beat reporters were saying that the Bears practices were, the Bears were being too rough on them, and we haven't seen practices like this, I think that says more about how you're practicing than how the Bears are practicing. Personally, I think it says more about the intensity and the energy that Ben Johnson has. Because when I talked to Dennis Allen, when I talked to Al Harris, when I talked to Jaquan Brisker, they all said the same thing. I asked, did you try to, pull back after you realized that the Dolphins weren't going as hard? And he said, no. Like, if they want to lie down and take it, let them lie down and take it.
Like you heard Mike Tomlin, the great Mike Tomlin, say this, right? The standard is the standard.
Yeah.
So our standard and expectation in the way that we're going to play, right, it's going to be the way we play is going to be dictated by the way we practice. We can't talk about being a physical football team, but then practice at a low standard or at a not in heightened or an intense level or pace at practice. We're never going to be physical if we don't practice that way. And that standard isn't set and that standard isn't practiced, right? Each and every single day. You know what I mean? Like, that's the difference. So if their standard and the way they practice is not at a physical level, or if that's not their standard of practice, our standard is our standard, right? We're not changing the way we do things in the way that we have operated and the way that we have established our training camp and the way we do things as a Chicago Bears football team, right? Our head coach says our identity is going to be a physical football team. Well, everything we do has to be geared towards achieving that type of, mentality, right? Achieving that type of identity. So I don't care who comes in here and they're crying about getting hit and getting thrown to the ground and, oh, he pinched me, he did this, like,
he pinched me. That's what we get. He pinched me.
It's gonna be physical, man. So that's that's just what it is. Like, for me, stop crying. We're on now. We're playing the Chiefs. You know what I'm saying? So I don't. Good luck. Have a great season. You know what I'm saying? I hope you guys do well. And that's all. I think, and that's it.
That truly is it. And I thought that was the funniust part about it. Is this was 2 weeks ago. Like, that's called rent free, my boy. I mean, we got rent up there. You got to relax a little bit. Let's have this conversation though. And appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Let us know how you feel about Aaron Brewer and his comments on our fake toughness or fake physicality, if you will. Let's talk a little bit of this game, though, J-Mac. Heard from Andrew Billings yesterday. And I thought this statement was, I don't know. You tell me what you think this means or how many plays you feel like it takes to get to the point. But I asked him, did he feel like this was going to be the first team defense's first real test? And what he said was, he feels like last week was a test because they were out there and you still got to go out there and make the plays. But this week you're going up against the starters and you're going to have an opportunity to get tired in the game. I would assume that means I've never played an NFL game. I don't know how many plays it takes for you to start to get tired, but that sounds like you're playing more than a couple of drives in the game. J-Mac, what are you hoping to see from this first team when they get tired today, and how many plays do you think that may be?
Yeah, I don't know how many plays or how long they're going to play, duration of playing time that the starters will be out there for. But I'm hoping they're out for, an extended period of time, a little bit longer than what we saw last week. I think especially against an opponent that's actually playing their starters, an opponent that's a consistently, well-ran organization, a playoff team, a Super Bowl threat each and every year. So I think it's a good test, especially, we're going to have a long break to help you get ready for the season opener. You couldn't ask for a better matchup. You couldn't ask for a better way for this thing to be set up in terms of the last preseason game. So, the defense will get a chance to go out there and see, the best quarterback, in the league, or one of the best quarterbacks. Some say it was Josh Allen last week. We didn't see Josh, so we're going to see Patrick tonight. So it'll be a great test to see, what they can do against that Chiefs offense. What they can do against the Chiefs offensive line and in the Chiefs running game. We know Andy Reid loves to run the football. We know what Patrick Mahomes has done. We know what Travis Kelce has done consistently, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a good test. So I'm excited to see how long they get to go out there and play and what type of dominance or what type of defensive presence we can establish against a great Chiefs offense. And the same thing with the Bears offense. You're going up against a defense that actually playing their starters. Like I said when we came on the pod, you went out there last week and you played clean football.
Yep.
I thought Caleb was exceptionally well on third down situations. He showed poise. He showed the ability to be able to read the defense, make a check, but he also showed the ability to go out there and execute in those situations. We saw him have a firm command of the cadence. He's able to draw Buffalo off sides because of the cadence, really using that cadence as a weapon, right? Being able to use that snap count as a weapon by the way he changed the cadence, by really, being able to accentuate that cadence to draw them off sides. We saw that as well. Saw a lot of guys make plays, guys that you're counting on. Zacchaeus made plays.
Yep.
You saw the running backs make plays, especially the young running backs being able to make plays. So it's going to be a good test tonight.
Is there a hope from you that we get to see a little DeAndre Swift tonight? Because we did. That's one thing we didn't see. Really. No matter the starters, that's kind of been the theme of the last two preseasons for the Bears here. DeAndre Swift, I think, had one play last preseason. Remember, it was that big, was it a broken play or was it a screen pass that he ended up taking basically to the house? And it was like, all right, that's enough. Go sit down. And we didn't see him the rest of preseason. I really want to see, what the true running game looks like. And Ben Johnson continues to say, we may not know that until we get to week 5 of the season. Yeah. We don't know if we want to be a wide zone team, if we want to be a gap scheme team. It would be good to see that kind of start to formulate, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like teams, like when you say a team is going to really establish an identity or they're starting to establish an identity, right? You're not going to see that later on in the season. Not later on in the season, but a little bit, into the beginning of the season. And some teams, they don't even start to set an identity until it can even be week 8 or week 9. You know what I'm saying? And like he's talking about, we got to see what we're good at. We got to see what we execute consistently, especially in a run game, right? Are our guys better at getting on edges? Are we going to be a wide zone team? Do we have the ability to really execute double teams and come off the ball? Are we going to be a gap scheme team? Misdirection team, running counter and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, like you said, I would like to see DeAndre out there more than we saw him last week. I think he needs, to get his body calloused to get ready for the season opener. He needs to get hit. He needs to get tackled to the ground. Obviously, Miami wasn't doing that.
Well, listen, the Bears have been getting him. I say this: the Bears have been getting him.
So he didn't get
that against Miami.
So but I think he needs that. I think he needs to get some work. Go out there, work up a sweat. Get in the groove. Start to get into a rhythm. So that way, the season opener, he's got some. He's logged some snaps. He's logged some carries under his belt because it's a long break. It's a long break, man.
What is it? It's this week and then basically 2 weeks off and then Monday Night Football.
Yeah, it's like, man, just think about it. It's almost like you finish the game tonight and then you're off for like 3 weeks. Like that's like 3 weeks, 3 training camp weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a long time. So I think the guys need to go out there and get some real work in, especially when the Chiefs are playing their ones as well. So I love to see the Chiefs, keep those guys in there a little longer and to make sure that they're getting some work before this long layoff.
What I love about this too, J-Mac, is I think it's, when I hear Andrew Billings talk about, we want to see what we look like when we're getting tired. I think that's a lot of times when you see technique breakdown, where you see, some of the pre-snap penalties, where you see a miscue from Caleb in the huddle or something like that. And I want to see that versus, of course, you want to see it versus the first team defense, but I want to see what that looks like while you're on the road, while you're playing longer portions of the game than you've played to this point in this system, because that to me is truly where you see teams who are great. By the end of the season, everybody's tired, everybody's beat up, everybody's done. The best teams, though, still find a way to maintain, like you said, the standard or their identity in all of that while dealing with all of those same issues that everybody else has.
Yeah, without a doubt, when you get tired on the football field, the first thing that gets tired, or the first thing that that falters is your fundamentals, right? Especially, just like you talked about, gap integrity. I'm in the wrong gap, like pre-snap penalties, tackling gets bad, right? Not because I fundamentally don't understand what I need to do to execute that particular play, but it's because I'm tired physically and then, and mentally. So I'm not focused in, I'm not locked in. So I think you got to go out there and they got to go out there and get put in that situation, right? Hopefully the offense can go out there and they stay out there and they have a 7 or 8 play drive, and then come back out there and do it again to where they understand, like, hey, like, we're going to be doing this for 4 quarters and even overtime here in a couple of weeks. So I think exactly what you said. It's the fundamentals. You got to hone in on the fundamentals. You got to rely on your fundamentals when you get tired. You got to be mentally and physically tough in this game to be able to execute those fundamentals. And a team that's fundamentally sound, each and every Sunday and doesn't turn the ball over, as we know, gives themselves a chance to win the game.
Yeah. Is there a position for you that you're going to be focused in on here? We know left tackle has been a big conversation here. The running back room is interesting now with as many guys that are banged up. I think the DB room is incredibly interesting because Nashawn Wright and Tyreek Stevenson, they may be the guys going into week 1 if Jalen Johnson is not yet back. There's still a big gap in between there, like you said, where there's time for him to get back. But again, he hasn't been getting the conditioning. He hasn't been getting the physicality that's been happening out there. So there is a portion of that I look at and I say, okay, like, hopefully he's close to coming back and getting that in, but you may have to rely on those two. Is there something that you're looking at coming into this Chiefs game that you're like, that's a position we got to watch real close, especially like you said, when they get tired?
I'm looking at everything, man. I think there's a lot of interesting, matchups and battles taking place. We look at the most obvious ones. You're talking about left tackle and offensive line and stuff like that. But I think, the situation, you can go from running back to receiver. There's so many receivers. Like, guys are going to have to try to separate themselves, to make this roster, and it's going to be through special teams, right? Even that defensive line, got a lot of talent, a lot of young guys, on that defensive line as well. How is that going to shape out? Because there's going to be a huge cut. Like you said, Tuesday it's going to be down to 53. Right. There's going to be a lot of guys, not on this roster. The good thing is, with the practice squad roster being expanded, you'll have an opportunity to retain some of these guys, and they'll still be in your system. They'll still be getting developed, and development is key in this league if you want to be consistently good. So some of the guys will be on the practice squad because they need the development, they need to grow within this new scheme and this system, and so I'm excited about a lot of things. I think running back's an interesting one as well. We know DeAndre Swift's the guy. Roschon been in and out of the lineup. Kyle Monunga didn't play last week. Deion Hankins goes down. They signed Royce Freeman, Ian Wheeler, Britton Brown have a big day. So I think that running back room is going to be interesting too. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of changes in terms of guys who ain't even here right now. that'll the Bears will look at their preseason film and say, he's a guy that can fit in our system, even though we haven't had him here. But he's the guy who we want based upon his skill set and the way he played in preseason. So you see a lot of those things happen. There'll be a guy or two that'll make this roster that wasn't even here in training camp because he had a good preseason with another team and he's a better fit than what we have right now. So it's always interesting at this time because there's going to be a lot of shuffling of rosters. Dreams are going to be realized, right? Dreams are going to be crushed because the reality is some of these guys, at the end of the day, this could be the last football game that they play in their lives. And it's sad, but that's NFL reality. So if you're one of the young guys, if you're a lower guy on the totem pole, an undrafted guy, lower level draft pick, you got to go out there and play just like your Super Bowl. Whether you get 1 quarter, whether you get 10 reps, whether you get 15 reps, 5 reps, they got to be the best 5 reps of your life because that's exactly what you're fighting for. You're fighting for a dream. And, some of those guys' dreams are going to be realized and some aren't.
Yeah. And hopefully, they go out there and tackle in this game. I just feel like it'd be good to see some tackling in this game.
Aaron's gonna come looking for us.
Oh, dang it! I don't want to see that.
Come looking for me because guess you find me ain't gonna be no fake physicality.
we tackling in that game. I love it. No, I think the other thing to really focus in on is, you talked about it, that 90-man cut down going to 53 on Tuesday. This is going to be a big game for a lot of those guys, like you said, who were looking to make a team. And I just got to get your perspective on this, because you were the guy who was the undrafted guy who's trying to make a team, who's fighting to make a team, who's like, I got to do the extra. You always smile when you see a guy like a Kyle Monungai, who was a 7th round pick or whatever, finishing his rep in the end zone. It's like, I got to make sure I do everything I can so they know that I'm all about business and making this team. If you were going through this, do you feel like it's better the way you guys did it, where there were multiple cut downs, or would this be more stressful going from 90 to 53?
I don't think either way, the format, you know what's coming. You know what's at stake. You know what you got to do. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, you can't even, like, here's the thing. If you're, they always talked about when we were in training camp, the numbers game, right? Counting numbers. How many guys at this position? How many guys you think they're going to keep? If you're looking at it from that standpoint, then you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? You got to go out there and perform at a high level. You got to be elite in everything you do, from your preparation, from the way you are in meetings, from the way you interact with people in the building, from the way you approach each and every meeting, from the way you attack that field, from the performance you put out there when you get reps in preseason. Has got to be an elite level. It's got to be at the type of level where they say, you know what, we can't get rid of him because he can help us win and he deserves to be on this roster. So that's the mindset. I'm not looking at the guy in front of me. I'm not looking at the guy behind me. I'm competing against, and I'm looking at guys next to me, whether it's a tight end, 3rd and 4th tight end, because I'm competing against those guys as well, because, they'll look at a guy and say, hey, you know what, he's better on special teams than this particular guy. So, I think Coach Johnson alluded to it too. There's position battles, but it crosses over to other positions. Talked about the tight ends are competing against the running backs, right? The wide receivers are competing against the tight ends. You know what I mean? Because there's only so many footballs, there's only so many roster spots. But if we feel like that this running back gives us more than that tight end can give us, especially when it comes to blocking, when it comes to being able to utilize him in the passing game, and it also when it comes down to him being a special teams contributor, well, guess what? They're going to find a way to keep that guy on the roster, because the more he can do, the more he can help this team. So that's the mentality that you got to have. And anytime that you get in a preseason setting, like, I can't be like the older guys who we know is going to be on the team. If I'm a receiver, I'm not DJ Moore. If I'm a defensive lineman, I'm not Montez Sweat. If I'm a DB, I'm not Jalen Johnson, right? Those guys came in, they established themselves as pillars of this organization. Right, they're the blue chip guys of the team, but I have to go out there and I've got to be different. I've got to do more. I've got to put it on tape, and not just for this team, but for other teams to see it, so that way I have a chance to be on a NFL roster and not just the Bears NFL roster.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's guys on this team that I would say, J-Mac, and I think you would say seeing it, right? Like a Tyler Scott. I think that Tyler Scott had a really good camp. Thought he showed that he answered the question of, if you throw me the ball, I can catch this football. I've always said his footwork off the line is excellent. I've always said he's got breakaway speed. The question was, can he catch? It almost doesn't matter on this team, because there's so many pass catchers on this team. He may be a guy who's on that bubble. So at a certain point, there does have to come that it's just about me playing my best ball every single time I go out there, because I need somebody else that may have to pick me up to see what I can do, that I can go over here, and if you put me in this position, I'll make this play. And I think it's great when you talk about cross positions right now, because if there were 2 guys on this roster that I would say you should be eyeballing a guy at a different position, Zach Pickens and Karan Amagaji should be looking at each other and saying, it's me versus you. And I get it. Karan Amagaji, new draft pick. He was here last year. Maybe that gives him a little bit of an advantage. He's dealt with some injury in this preseason as well. Zach Pickens has been here longer. But between those 2, it's going to be, do we keep 10 defensive linemen or 10 offensive linemen? And you're probably going to keep 9 on the other side. If you keep 10 on one, those are the 2 where it's been consistently, you're not really a part of this rotation. Once Karan he dealt with the injury, that we know that played a part in it. But then he came back. He's been with the 3s. He hasn't moved from the 3s at all. Theo Benedict blew up the depth chart, or the rep chart, if you will, if there is no real depth chart per Ben Johnson. You know, when you see a guy at left tackle and you hear Ben Johnson talk about him, he goes, look at him. He just looks like an offensive lineman, don't he? You can tell that he likes this dude. Like, it's like,
right.
There has to be like, okay, so it's not me beating out Theo right now. I got to beat out you on the other side, who is kind of getting looked at the same way as I'm getting looked at.
Yeah. And that goes back to, like you're saying, I got to be one of the best 53. Right. And the thing is, a lot of those slots we talk about 53, there's not 53 slots open. Some of them slots are already filled in. You know what I mean? Not with pencil, with pen or with permanent marker.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not getting twisted. There's only a handful of spots. So I've got to be, I've got to be one of the best guys. And whatever, each team has a number of spots available, right? It ain't 53. But I gotta make sure that my name is in, whatever that number is, I gotta be in that slot, regardless of position. And like you're saying, that's just what it is. That's the NFL. And you got to make sure you put your best foot forward. And it's not just, and like we're talking about, the main thing is it's not just this Bears roster. It's an NFL roster.
Yep. I'm actually looking at the depth chart right now. Like you saying that. I would say guaranteed at least 24 players on the offensive side. I would probably say the same, maybe 25 players on the defensive side, because you got Shamar Turner, who hasn't really been in the mix.
Yeah.
Ruben Hippolyte, 26. I mean, you're quickly out of spots on this team.
Yeah,
like it really is. You're fighting for 3 or 4 spots on this Bears roster. I'm not saying for every Bears roster we've seen, but on this Bears roster.
Yeah, and those, however how many spots is open, 3, 4, 5, whatever. It's those spots is, do we need just an O lineman? Do we just need a D lineman? No, it's the best of the rest. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Hopefully, they can't keep 90, but hopefully we see a bunch of guys that are putting their best foot forward. Make the coach's decision hard. That's what I heard Lance say one time when talking about that. Those make the coaches. We saw it last year when in Hard Knocks. Who did Ryan Poles end up having to cut? And it was just a numbers game. He wasn't a bad player. And you saw it was a tough decision for Ryan Poles. Why am I blanking on his name? He didn't wear shoes. He used to ride a bike.
The DB, right?
He was a DB. I think he was a safety. Anyway.
Yeah. But here's the thing too. It's like, and it's tough because there's some cuts that you have to make that in other years, the way your roster shaped out, that particular player would have made your team. And if you release him, that he's not going to make it on your practice squad because somebody else is going to bring him in because he is such a good player and he does have good film and he does have good film out there. So that's the reality, but from a player standpoint, that's what you want. You want to make it hard, for these coaches, for the GMs and the people, the decision makers, to make it tough to release you, but you put yourself in a position to say, you know what, even if I'm not on a Chicago Bears roster, right, I'm thankful for the opportunity, but I did what I was supposed to do to where my tape is so good, the way I practiced, the way I performed, and what I put on tape in preseason games is going to enable me to have a chance at landing on somebody's roster and to fulfill my NFL dream. And that's a situation that not just guys on our roster right now are trying to put themselves in, but the entire NFL guys on the bubble are trying to put themselves in, right? They're trying to find a slot for one of these NFL teams right now.
Yeah, let's hope we see 180 guys go out there and ball out today. Because I don't want to see nobody's dream in. But hey, somebody's got to be an accountant, man. Somebody's got to be an agent. Somebody's got to be in sports science.
Hey, that's why
everybody got their own path.
That's why it's select few. It's you talk about the less than 1%, people throw it out, and what I mean. It's here's the thing. It's easy to talk about. Yeah, we can talk about this, right? But it's different. It's you're in it. Guys have lived it. You understand pressure. So I got so much pressure on me. This is a whole new level of pressure, especially when your dream has been to do this for the rest of your life, right? And it could be crushed. It can be over. This could be your last game of your life. A game that you have played since, guys have started different, ages, but since you were 5, 6, or whatever, a game you played your whole life, right? A dream you set out for yourself your whole life can be crushed right now.
Well, J-Mac, there's always that opportunity to get on that 40U team, man. Have you gotten into that? Have you gotten into that algorithm on Twitter and on Instagram, bro?
That is hilarious, man. But yeah,
bro, the 40U team got me crying.
You watch that, you see why those guys. You see why those guys are. Love the passion, though.
Hey, I love the passion, bro. One dude got hit. They said, "Dang, he gonna be off tomorrow." He must got 9 to 5. Hey, man, we appreciate y'all for tuning in to Show of Love as always, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Shout out to 40U football, man. That's truly, I won't let my dream die. I don't know if y'all getting paid or not, but y'all need a TikTok documentary or something. Get your bag, boys. Get your bag. Man. For J-Mac, who will be covering the game tonight from the sideline on ESPN 1000. Stay tapped in with J-Mac for all the phenomenal updates we get there. Every time just, J-Mac, what are your thoughts on the field? It's good. I love it. I love to hear it, man. Appreciate y'all for showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, man. Your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Bear down. One love.
Bear down.